to this session on authentic leadership, the key to trust and respect in your business. I would like to bid you welcome. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be here in meeting all of you today. And this session is part of our monthly self-leadership series. We also have the series on neurosemantics, the meta coaching system, and parenting. Now, we stopped having the sessions in January because of the Chinese New Year and all that. I got distracted as well. However, I'm relieved that we are able to continue with the sessions. We have the sessions every Thursday evening. Some of you are here for the first time, and there are others who have joined these sessions before. Whether you are a first-timer or a regular, I welcome you and I encourage you to interact in the discussions later. I'm Mazuki. I'm a neurosemantics trainer and meta coach, and I represent Malaysia in the international leadership team of ISNS. In the 60 to 90 minutes together, we'll be discussing the session into three segments. One is a short segment on the introduction to authentic leadership. Then we'll delve into the neurosemantics of authenticity. And the second main point would be adjusting your meta programs for authenticity. As usual, I will pause for discussion after each main point to invite questions, comments, and contributions from each and every one of you, because the learning that we get from this session is not only from me, it is also from the sharing that I know many of you are experienced in this area, and I welcome you to share your experiences. And there's some of you who like to think out loud. So by all means, you are most welcome to think out loud when we come to the discussion sessions later. My style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, reduce being serious, and be more real. So before continuing on, just to acknowledge those of you who are here, thank you. Guat Cheng, Kim Kim, Michael Tan, Pak Indra Kurniawan, and also Ko Chek Siu. So thank you for being here. Now I will begin the introduction as I will be sharing screen now. A short introduction to authentic leadership. Authentic leadership is about being true to yourself and leading from a space of integrity. It is a leadership style that is becoming increasingly popular and can help leaders to build trust and respect in their team members. So why is it popular? And how does it help to build trust and respect with the team members? So these are a couple of points that we'll be addressing in the session today. So let's go on with the first point regarding authentic leadership. The first one is that authentic leadership involves being true to oneself and one's values while being transparent and honest with others. It is about leading with integrity and being authentic in one's actions and decision-making. The second point, as an introduction, is that authentic leaders are self-aware. They know their strengths and weaknesses, and they can recognize and manage their emotions. This allows them to lead with authenticity and inspire trust from their team. So there are 2 points in that one just now. Knowing strengths and weaknesses, and recognize and manage emotions. So that's also part of what authentic leaders are. Then the third point as an introduction here is that authentic leadership also means being open to feedback and learning from others. authentic leaders are humble and always looking to improve themselves and their leadership skills. They also create a culture where team members feel comfortable giving and receiving feedback, which leads to a more engaged and productive team. Okay, so those are quick introduction, because when it comes to authentic leadership, I come here with lots and lots of questions as well, and anticipating that you may have questions that you're bringing into this session. So I would just like to pause here. Let me just listen to some of the questions that are running in your mind, so that when we move into the neurosemantics of authenticity and also adjusting yourself to becoming more authentic, then I will be able to know to which questions that it relates. So the first introduction to authentic leadership, it is about being true to yourself, to your values, being transparent and honest with others, being self-aware, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, recognizing and managing your emotions, and being open to feedback and learning from others. So let's pause here for a moment. I'd like to welcome Pierre, who's just joined us. And I would like to invite, are there any thoughts and ideas and questions that you may already have right now? So go ahead. If you do not have access to the mic, you can just put into the chat box. However, if you have access to your mic, I'd like to hear your voice. Just unmute yourself and let me hear. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Encik Basuki, Chexiu here.
Yes, Chexiu.
Yeah, because when you talk about the authentic leadership, the first one, be true to yourself kind of thing. Yeah, because this is also, I mean, it's quite similar of, I mean, I think I'm doing it. I mean, I don't know whether it's just a coincidence or what. I always advise my new staff when they are in the induction program kind of things. I always tell them, if you can do, you say can do. Cannot do means cannot do. Be true to yourself and be fair to the company. You cannot say you can do, but after that you come in, you cannot do. That is unfair to us for hiring you, all this kind of thing also. So that's why I think to be authentic, I think is quite important. Yeah, and then also that from what you share just now, validated what I'm doing is actually on the right track. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chexiu. Appreciate that. Yes, anyone else would like to offer any comments or questions? When subordinates, this is from Guat Cheng, when subordinates give feedback to management, how management can keep their emotions stable and not being defensive. This is related to authentic leadership, how management can keep the emotions stable and not being defensive. Yes, I do believe that part of being authentic later on we'll be going into the meta programs that allows us to be more authentic. So when you are running the meta programs in the right way, what we'll be discussing in the second point later, then it will help to answer this question, Guat Cheng. Yeah. Yes, the management need to keep their emotions stable and not being defensive. It is about ego strength. So we'll be answering that in the meta program section. So thank you, Guat Cheng. We'll get to that. Yes, any other points? Right. So are you ready to move on to the first point with respect to authentic leadership? That is the neurosemantics of authenticity. Now, in neurosemantics, authenticity is not something new. It is something that we have modeled about. So, but the definition for authenticity in neurosemantics is being, and then acting from one's true self without masks and personas, being real or true to oneself, to one's gifts, talent, values, and vision. So there is that congruence between who you are as a person, yourself, your gifts, your talent, your values and vision, and then acting from that. So meaning to say, authenticity is when there is no incongruence or when there is congruence between your self and your behavior. Now, where does authenticity come from? What I would like to bring to you, it is that from a self-actualizing person. Abraham Maslow came up with 19 characteristics of the self-actualizing person, and I quickly put it on the screen over there for you to be able to see that. Now, from these 19 characteristics of self-actualizing person, 2 speaks about authenticity. One is item number 6 there, genuine, caring, and love. So that speaks about authenticity. When you are caring and loving someone from your genuineness, that is when you are being true to yourself. You are being authentic. And another is item number 12 there, simplicity and naturalness. So these 2 characteristics of self-actualizing people are what contributes to this this value of authenticity. In fact, in the criteria, the leadership criteria of neurosemantics, what we have modeled from self-actualizing individuals, out of the 7 criteria that we have modeled, the first criteria is authenticity. So from neurosemantics, that's where it comes from the characteristics of self-actualizing person. Oh. Did you hear the firecrackers just now? Somebody just lighted the firecrackers outside my window just now. Right. Now, when we talk about authenticity, when people are behaving in certain ways, how do we know they are authentic or not? And the way that I look at it is that when I look at authenticity, I'm asking myself, when I am authentic, how do I behave? So this is the perspective of authentic leadership, becoming more authentic for myself. And I'm really glad that in neurosemantics, we have benchmarked the behaviors of authenticity. And if you are not aware of this, this is what I will be sharing with you one by one when we are benchmarking authenticity. So at level 0 meaning to say a person is not fully authentic. Now, just a reminder, when we benchmark skills and of people in order for us to be able to model, we benchmark not just their mindsets, the inner game, but also the outer game. In order to measure our outer behaviors, that's why we focus on the behaviors. Okay, so at level 0, meaning to say not authentic, is that a person at level 0 will be behaving in ways that plays roles to trick and acts as a yes person to whatever is socially, professionally, or politically useful or correct, lacks the congruence to confront or be in conflict, hesitates when in such situation. So that's at level 0. And the way that I use this benchmark is using that as a point of reflection. I look at this benchmark and I ask myself, how much have I been behaving in that way? Okay, so that's at level 0. Let's see at level 1. At level 1, a person who is authentic speaks and acts in ways that hide one's truth, not sounding believable because of tone and volume and style, doesn't match the content of words. Outward expressions not revealing inward thoughts and feelings. Now, when you are, I will use the word skill. When you are skilled in non-verbal communication, then you begin to detect whether somebody is authentic or not from this particular level. And guess what? Little children are very good at this. When you say something and you don't really mean that, they can hear from your non-verbals that you are not congruent with what you say. So that's at level 1. Let's take a look at level 2. Occasionally speaks and acts in ways that reveal your true heart and views, mostly trying to please others, fit in, and or conform. So that's at level 2. And when I use this benchmark and check for myself, I say, oh, wow, so I'm behaving quite a lot at that particular level. So I have another 3 more levels to go. Moving to the next level, mostly speaks and acts congruently, speaks from your true opinions, even when in conflict with a social, political, or peer group. So that's operating at level 3. And from neurosemantics perspective, that's where you want to bring yourself to. Yeah. So in my case, just sharing with you that I don't really fulfill that criteria of mostly. So I will at times speak and acts congruently because a lot of the times I'm trying to fit in, trying to harmonize with other people. So in that case, I'm hurting my own authenticity. Okay, so that's at level 3. At level 4, we'll take a stand on an unpopular issue, speaks with energy, emotion, and enthusiasm about things that you care about, willing to have it cost personally and or professionally. Yeah. So in this particular respect, for myself, when I reflect, I say, yep, there are 1 or 2 things that when I am passionate about, then I will speak in that way. I will take a stand and take the unpopular issue. For example, in my case, what I'm passionate about is about human development. I'm passionate about children development. I'm passionate about the issue of injustice. So yes, in those areas, I will stand up. So it means to say that, hey, so I'm saying to myself, hey, I have some behaviors that I have at level 4. Yes, a lot of behaviors at level 3. At the same time, I'm also having some of my behaviors at level 2. So this is how we use this benchmark to acquaint ourselves with types of behaviors going up a higher and higher levels. Then going on to level 5, we'll pay the price to live up to your highest values and visions and not follow the path of least resistance, willing to stand out from the crowd. So that's at level 5. Yeah. And personally speaking, I find that I have not done anything at level 5 yet. So I see that my behaviors are at level 2, 3, and 4. I can see some of those behaviors, and having this kind of benchmark about authenticity allows me to push that envelope further in order for me to become more authentic in my life. So from the neurosemantics perspective, we went through the definition of authenticity, and we know that authenticity comes from the characteristics of self-actualizing people, and the value, the criteria of authenticity comes from 2 of the characteristic of self-actualizing people. There is the characteristic of genuine caring and love, and also simplicity and naturalness. And also I'm referring to the neurosemantics. We have benchmarked the behaviors of authenticity. And the way that I use this benchmark is to look at the behaviors at each level and ask myself, so what can I do in order to move myself to the next level and the next level, and the next level. Okay. So I will just pause here and address any questions that you may have. And I see that in the chat box there, Michael Tan puts in there levels 4 and 5. How would one know one is correct? So I just need to check with you, Michael, what do you mean by correct? What is the criteria that you're using there? If you can put in the chat box. The leader may think he or she is correct, but the followers do not. Thank you for giving me that additional information. So part of what is required, what is the characteristic of an authentic leader is that he is open to feedback. So in as much as I'm running my meta program as a leader, I have my points of references, that I use as reference. At the same time, as a leader, I want to also check with what's outside in order to gain that feedback. So with the feedback, I may or may not adjust my thoughts about things. At the same time, an authentic leader is open to feedback. And in the next point, when I go into the meta programs that are required in order for you to be to develop yourself to be more authentic, then you'll see some of the meta programs. When you adjust them, it will help you to be able to be more open to feedback and to be able to take in information from the surrounding. And as I'm saying that, the challenge for some leaders, especially leaders who are more dominant. So I'm not saying dominant in a negative way. Some leaders are more dominant. Some leaders tend to take the what I call take the more democratic approach. Both situations are equally useful depending on the context. So I'm just taking an example, a leader who is more dominant in terms of voicing out the opinion, they are strong in voicing out opinion. What can happen is that if you have followers who are not authentic enough to correct you, then you may be fed with information that only enhances your thinking. And because of that, that particular leader is missing out on a lot of things. So it is not just about the leader not being open to feedback. The leader may be, the word that I will use is, may be exposed to an echo chamber whereby the leader is only hearing information that supports his views. So that is also a danger that might happen. So taking several things into account, right? Thank you, Michael, for putting the thinking of political leaders like Putin, who is not open to feedback. So I do not want to give him any feedback. Right. Yeah, Pierre, go ahead, Pierre. Just unmute your mic.
My question is, for example, if I notice I'm on a level 3 of authenticity, how do I move up from 3 to 4 and then ideally 5?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. First thing that if you notice, I mentioned to you just now, is that I said that I have some behaviors at level 2 and some behaviors at level 3, some at a little bit at level 4. So meaning to say that you are not at one level throughout the vastness of your behavior. In certain situations, you are at 2. In certain situations, you are at 3, and all that, right? Because we are
so it's like a meta program
in that way. Okay, so how do you bring yourself to the higher levels? It's about noticing. Okay, so in terms of the levels, yes, I have quite a lot of behaviors at 2, a lot of behaviors at 3, still very little at level 4. Then I begin to identify, so what are level 4 behaviors? Can I do more and more? So this is how you begin to drive yourself forward, right? So if you see that you have behaviors at level 4, 3, 2, it doesn't mean that you are a hypocrite or anything. We are just humans in that way. So that's why if you are familiar with benchmarking, the way that we do in trainers training and also in meta coaching, is that we begin to notice, okay, this is behavior at level 2, and we count them. This is behavior at level 3, we count them. And typically, even in coaching or in training, you see the behaviors at 2, 3, 4, just noticing where is the majority of behaviors, and that's how we compute for ourselves. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, what I'm getting from your answer is we shouldn't see it as a complete shortcoming. Like some days I'm going to be at a level 1, and some days I'll be at a level 5.
Yes.
And it's being okay with both and being flexible in those times, moving up and down.
And as you say that, the thought that comes to mind is to take responsibility for yourself. For example, at level 1 and level 0 are the behaviors that we really don't want. Those are behaviors that hurt our authenticity. So if I realize that I'm behaving, some of my behaviors at level 1 or at 0, then the key thing is not to give myself any excuses, not to justify the behavior, to accept, hey, that behavior is level 1 behavior and that's not acceptable. So find ways and means to overcome that. Make sense? Right.
Yeah, I'm hearing the presupposition in NLP that says separate person from behavior.
Absolutely. You are more than your behavior, Fair. Right. So we have a question here from Michael. How to be consistently at a certain desired level? If not, followers will label the leader as undecided. One day at level 2, another day at level 4. Now, thank you for asking that question. If I understand your question right, that yes, we behave in different ways. Part of being authentic is to accept your fallibility. So yes, I aspire to be at level 4. There are days that I behave at level 2, that I might behave at level 1. So being authentic is about accepting the responsibility. Yes, I did that, and that was not right for me, or that was wrong for me to do that, and I admit that that is not the kind of person who I want to be. So to be able to accept that we are fallible, and whenever we make mistakes, we fall back, to be able to accept that. Yeah, so this has got to do a lot with ego strength, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. Okay, so just to be able to accept that you will not be at one level, your behaviors will be at one level throughout at 100%. Yeah, because there are many dimensions to our lives, and to be able to accept that in certain areas we are at level 2, certain areas we are at level 3, and to be able to embrace our fallibility, not justify, not blaming others, however, taking responsibility. That is my weakness. So now I need to move away from that. And it is about, related to the question that Pierre was asking just now, it is about setting a higher side and deliberately practicing that. Yeah. I hope that gives an added perspective. Thank you. Right. So let's move to the final point. To adjust your meta programs for authenticity. When we say adjusting meta programs for authenticity, is that we as human beings, we are not sculpted in stone. We can change ourselves. And for me, one of the things that I'm grateful about is understanding about meta programs. That is, what is our default way of thinking, and to not fall into the trap of just operating from our default values. So the value that I see from neurosemantics is about to be able to understand the self-reflexive process and to take charge of that self-reflexive process. So in that way, I can now begin to monitor and make adjustments to my behavior. Because if we are not aware of our default behavior and we default in that particular way, we will not be able to change that. So in order to change a certain default behavior, we need to first detect it, to have that awareness. So the default behaviors comes through in what we call meta programs. Meta programs are default ways of thinking. So let's take a look at what are the meta programs involved. Authenticity is about being true to yourself, true to your values. So that's why the first meta program that I think of when we want to talk about authenticity is the meta program of values. Values are nominalizations of what we believe as important. Yeah. So that's values. What I'll do is that I'll just list out, I've identified 7 meta programs. I'll list out 7 meta programs, and then we'll go to each of those meta programs again. Now, the second one is quality of life. How we measure our quality of life. And this meta program is being, doing, and having. So that's quality of life. Third meta program is the meta program of self-esteem. Self-esteem, the spectrum is from conditional to unconditional esteem. Next meta program is the meta program of self-confidence. You have low self-confidence, you have in between, and then you have high self-confidence. The next meta program is the meta program of self-integrity, the integrity of your self matrix. Yeah. So on one end of the scale, I'll just go back. Yeah. So one end of the scale is conflicted and incongruent. So that's one end of the scale of self-integrity. The other end of the scale is congruent and integrated. Next meta program is responsibility. So you have under-responsible, over-responsible, and in the middle is healthy responsibility. And the next meta program that I'm bringing to your attention this evening is ego strength. You have unstable and weak, strong and stable. So that's the spectrum for the meta program. So let's take the first one, which is values. Now, we have a lot of values in our life. Values are nominalizations of what we believe to be important. So if you want to know what your values are, just ask yourself, what's important to me? So you can identify, for example, in the area of work. So what's important to me? So list down. what they are. In the area of family, what's important to me? In the area of leisure, what's important to me? By asking the question of importance, what is important to me, these will reveal your values. Okay. Now, the thing about values is that you also want to differentiate between what is the criteria that you are using to inform your values. Because if your values are based upon your preferences, then your values tends to be, the word that I will use is more transient. It will keep changing. Now, the other one is, are your values based upon principles? Principles are much more overarching. They are much more universal. So sometimes we tend to look into the principles of the universe and apply it into human life. So when our values are based on preferences, that's when our values will keep changing and we'll have to keep track of what they are. And we need to question whether the values that we have, are they really valid? Now, when the values are based on universal principles, then we know that we are basing our values on something that is more solid. So that's why Stephen Covey, in his book called Principle-Centered Leadership, so he is recommending that when we want to lead, we want to do something substantial, we need to make sure that our values are based on principles, because principles have more permanency in that sense. So when we talk about values, to be able to cross-check that, are my values transient or are my values more solid if they are based on principle? So you need to ask, to question yourself, what is it that inform your values? For example, when it comes to human connection, human relating, so what are the principles that are used as values in order to drive the way that I interact and connect with other human beings? Is that I use the principles from the psychology of self-actualization, from positive psychology, so the psychology of the bright side of human nature. So the psychologies that I mentioned just now are what informs my values about the way that I deal with human beings. So the question that you want to ask yourself about values is that, what informs your values? Are they informed by principles, or are they informed just a personal preference? Because personal preferences will change between individuals, and yet principles apply to a larger group of people. Okay, so that's when it comes to values. So that's the first meta program. So if you're familiar with the meta program, it's number 60. So and it's just that there are countless values over there. You want to identify what the values are. Now, the thing about authenticity is that authenticity is driven by values. So if you are not clear about what your values are, how will you be authentic? So that's why I picked that as the first one, values. So to be able to detect that values. The second meta program with respect to authenticity is the meta program of quality of life. Now, quality of life, if you notice the arrow that I've just shown to you, that arrow from be, do, have, that is the healthy way of calibrating the quality of life. Because some people say that measure the quality of life based on what they do. So they are a successful doctor. So that's why their quality of life is exceptional. Or people base the quality of life based upon what they have. I have 5 Lamborghinis in my garage. So it means to say I have an excellent quality of life. Okay, so the thing about quality of life, the healthy quality of life, is to be as a person, and it is your being. So notice being, part of being is self-actualizing characteristics in you. So being is what, your being is what determines your behavior. So you're doing. And then through your doing is what you are having. So that's the quality of life meta program. That will drive your level of authenticity higher. So what you do is now driven by who you are, not by what's outside there. Okay? Next is self-esteem. And of course, with respect to self-esteem, the healthy self-esteem is unconditional. We create many self-concepts for our self-matrix. Now, the self-esteem is unconditional. Other forms you have of self, for example, self-confidence or a concept of self-worth, you may measure by other things. However, when it comes to putting worth on yourself, the healthy esteem is unconditional esteem. So when you want to be authentic and your esteem is still conditional, so what happens is that your behavior is being driven by what's attracting you out there. So that's why your behavior will not be congruent by your values. When your esteem is healthy and unconditional, only then your behavior is driven by your values. So that's how you remain authentic. Okay. Next one is self-confidence. Now, the thing about self-confidence is that it's confidence is about competency. So that's why when it comes to self-confidence, to be authentic, you need to be flexible enough to admit that your self-confidence can be high at one time and can be low at another time, because it needs to be high when you have competency in a particular area. If you are good in public speaking, then it is appropriate that you have high self-confidence when it comes to public speaking. Now, when it comes to swimming, since I'm not good in swimming, so it is appropriate for me to have low self-confidence. So when it comes to self-confidence, to have the ability to shift through that, allow your self-confidence to be driven by your competency, because it is dangerous to be confident in something that you are not competent in. You'll put yourself in danger. Okay, so a person who is not authentic, trying to be feeling confident in all areas, in order to show to themselves or to show to others that they are good, they'll put themselves and others in danger. So to be authentic, be low in confidence in the things that you are not good at, and be high in confidence in the things that you're good at. So to be able to move along the spectrum. Okay. Next one is self-integrity. So self-integrity over here, we want to be operating from the spectrum of congruent and integrated. We want to be integrous. We want to be whole. We want to be one. We do not want to be parts and parcels, keeping us, ourselves away from ourselves. So asking ourselves, in what are the areas that you are incongruent? And going back to the question that Pierre asked earlier, is that as human beings, we are not congruent all the time. Just because we are fallible human beings, we make mistakes. We are not congruent 100% of the time. So ask ourselves, in what area am I not congruent? And from the perspective of being responsible, asking the question, so what am I doing to resolve these incongruencies in my life? For example, I'm a very successful businessman, and probably the issue that I have is that I am not treating my staff very well. Because to be successful as a businessman, I want to make more and more and more money, and because of that, my staff have been asking for a raise for years. So I say, okay, I'm going to give you a raise of $1 per hour. So how congruent am I as a self-actualizing leader if, for the sake of the profit that I want to make, I am suppressing the livelihood of my staff? And if I were to notice that, okay, I am not congruent in that sense. I'm thinking of myself as a self-actualizing leader, and yet I am suppressing my staff. So ask the question, so what can I do to resolve this incongruency? Yeah, because in some areas we may be congruent, in some areas we may be not. So in terms of self-integrity, we want to be congruent and integrated. And knowing that there are certain areas in our lives we are not yet fully congruent, to be authentic, ask ourselves, what can I do about those areas? How can I improve? Okay. Next, with respect to responsibility, the healthy responsibility is right smack in the middle there, to be responsible, taking ownership of your 4 powers, be clear about your power zone. Yeah. So I am fully responsible for my thinking, for my feeling, for my saying, and for my doing. I take full responsibility over there. Now, when I am interacting with others, I am responsible for what I say and do to you. I am not responsible for what you say and do, for how you think and feel. That's none of my business. That's your business. However, my responsibility towards you is to say and do things that are loving and kind. So that's all. So that's how I remain healthily responsible. So to operate above the line is below the line, people who quit, people who lay blame, people who justify, that's playing below the line. Above the line is taking full responsibility. So this is what we refer to as healthy responsibility. And when you have this healthy responsibility in your life, that's when you will be able to increase your ability in being more authentic in your life. Okay. And the last one is ego strength, the strength of your ego. Your ego is what you, the concept, the self-concept, self-identity that you have created for yourself. So we are referring to your sense of self, your self-matrix, and your ability to separate you, the person, from you doing, the human being with human doing. So that is what we are referring to as the strength of your ego. So when a person has an unstable and weak ego strength, they tend to seek what's out there in order to fortify the ego. And because of that, they will not be congruent with their values. So if this is one area that you notice that is causing you to be not congruent with your values, to be able to learn to strengthen that ego. So it's about esteeming yourself fully and unconditionally, understanding the sense of self with respect to self-confidence, self-worth, to be able to hold that healthily, and to create that self-matrix that will be healthy in terms of holding yourself in sacredness, at the same time connecting with others who are equally sacred as you. So that allows you to be stable in your sense of identity, in your sense of self, and because of that, you are able to act according to what is valuable to you. So that's why I start off with the value, because the authenticity is driven by values. So when you are clear about what your values are, then you will not allow any part of your ego that's diminished to give up on your values. You will move towards your values and remain authentic in that sense. Okay, so that's basically what I have uncovered. You can look at the meta programs. There might be others that you can think of. However, for the moment, for this session, I've brought to you the 7 meta programs that you can work with, because we as humans, we are a work in progress. And because of that, we can continue to tweak ourselves to become better and better. And I noticed in the chat here, Kim asking the question, could you please elaborate on over responsibility? So our powers, we have 4 central powers: our thinking, feeling, saying, doing. And we also know that those are our powers, and people have their own powers. The thinking, feeling, saying, doing, they have their powers. Over responsibility is when you overreach beyond your powers to take responsibility for other people's powers. So meaning to say, if let's say someone in let's say family, a family member said something which is against your values, and because of that you feel humiliated, because this is not what you believe in, this is not what's important to you, and you want to get that person to change what they say in order to fit in with your values. So that is being over responsible. You are taking responsibility for somebody else's behavior. Yeah, the only time that you take responsibility for somebody else's behavior is when you have children below the age of 18. Right? You are responsible for another human being's behavior because you brought them into this world. So you've signed a contract that you need to take the responsibility until they are of a responsible age. So that's the time that, okay, so my 10-year-old just accidentally push the trash can, and it fell down and it hit a puppy, and the puppy died. Okay, so as the parent, yes, your 10-year-old child did that. However, as a parent, you are responsible also for your child's behavior. So in that sense, you are not being responsible, because there is the parenting relationship that you have with your child. However, with other adults, know that what other people say and do, that's their business. You are not responsible for that. Under responsibility is when you do things just because you want to do them and you don't care about the consequence. Well, no, not my fault, that kind of thing. So that's being under-responsible. Does that make sense, Kim? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I guess we've come, I'll stop share over here. Allow me to access any more questions or comments that you may have with respect to the meta programs. Go ahead, Pierre. Yes.
Something that's been coming up for me a lot is being present. And I think that's also valuable with when it comes to authenticity. You started off by saying being aware of your default programs.
Yes.
And I can only become aware of my default programs if I'm present at where am I now.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's also something important of authenticity, is being present and in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you say that, the thing about meta programs is that it is in your perceptual filter. And because it is in your perceptual filter, it makes it more difficult to detect. So you need to have a great level, a high degree of self-awareness in order to detect your meta programs. It's just that once you get used to the meta programs, and you get used to becoming a meta program detective, then you can become a detective on yourself. Right. So, any other comments or questions that you may have? No questions? So I guess that is what I have prepared for this evening. I hope that you found something useful. The main thing that I covered was the neurosemantics of authentic leadership, where it came from, and what are the behaviors. Those are important because when I look at authentic leadership, it is not about evaluating or judging other leaders. It is about as a reflection on ourselves to become more of an authentic leader. And the second one is, to me, also equally important, is that when we know the meta programs that we can modify, those will help us to become authentic in a quicker way. Otherwise, our meta programs can hinder us because we are not running the meta program in the right way. We have every intention of becoming more authentic. However, our default program are just pulling us back from there. So that's why I covered from those two perspectives. So when it comes to authentic leadership, we have mentioned here is that authenticity is driven by values. Yeah, authenticity is driven by values, and it is not driven by emotions. I put a point there because the misconception, misunderstanding that some people have with respect to authenticity is that I have to the word is, being authentic means I have to wear my heart on my sleeves so that people know what I'm feeling all the time. No, that's not about being authentic. Authenticity is not driven by emotions because emotions can at times fool us. So what we are talking about, authenticity, is being driven by our values, our sense of self, and our values. That's what we are referring to as authentic leadership. Okay, so we've come to the end of the session. Yes, Pierre, go ahead.
Quick question about values. Sorry. The word intention comes up for me. Isn't that also a way of testing our values? Is what's my intention behind these values?
Yes. When you explore your values, then the intentions behind those values will be revealed. Yeah. Because when you ask the question, so what is important to me? You identify, for example, you identify family is important to me, and then you climb up the ladder of values. So why is this important to me? Why is this important to me? Then your intentions, your purpose behind that particular value will be revealed to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. So thank you for being here. We've come to the end of the session. I would like to thank Hazwani and my darling wife Rosita, who just joined us. You've joined us at the end of the session, and we are closing the session now. And as usual, before we end, I would like to hear what is your takeaway from this particular session. So let me hear what you would like to say before we end. So I'll start off. If I start at the bottom of my screen, so G, do you want to say anything? Anything that you like to say, Rosita?
I thought that it started at 9.
Okay.
So miscommunication. I mean, I actually wrongly see it. But anyway, hi for everybody, to everybody. And thank you. Sorry that I wasn't in earlier.
Thank you for joining anyway, and thank you for the dinner that you sent.
Wow, yes. Thank you.
So Hazwani, would you like to say anything before we end?
Yeah, I'm so sorry because I thought the event started at 9 because I saw the invite from Eventbrite. It's 9 p.m. So that's why I'm just joining in. But yeah, maybe I'll join you guys later on next workshop, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
No
next one is moving on, and Dr. Khairi has joined. Dr. Khairi, we started at 8 just now, so we are at the end of the session. So before we end, is there anything that you would like to say, Dr. Khairi?
I guess I am in the same situation as the previous whoever speaks. I got a message that it was at 9 o'clock.
Okay. I'm sorry about that miscommunication.
Okay, so I missed it, huh?
What I'll do is that
maybe the recording.
Yes, I will send the link to the recording. I'll be uploading the recording, and I'll send the link to you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The notification that they send is at 9 p.m. Not at 8.
Okay. So I take full responsibility for making that mistake. Yeah. Right.
Oh, we got the recording, right?
Yes. You're sending the recording.
Thank you.
And Guat Cheng, is there anything that you like to add?
Yes. I like thank you, Marzuki. I like the most is we are flexible to adjust our benchmarking authenticity. That's I like the most. Like authenticity, we always thought that it must be fixed and stable all the time. But from this section, I noticed that we are flexible to adjust by case and situation to adjust our authenticity.
Hey, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah. And for me, authenticity is, as I just now said, is be true to ourselves and be fair to our audience kind of thing. Because whether it's a company, it's a subordinate or client or whoever kind of thing, when those things we can do, we'll tell people we can do and we do it kind of thing. If we cannot do or we are not able to do, we have to tell people we cannot. Sorry kind of thing. So to me, that is the authenticity. Even for even in a managerial role kind of thing, if I'm able to recommend someone for promotion or whatsoever, but to tell the people I'm able to do that because of this. If let's say in the event I have to deliver the bad news, which also I tell them, sorry, I'm not able to do this year, all this kind of thing due to this. We have to be true to ourselves. We cannot do means we cannot do. We cannot simply make a feel good situation to fake. To me, it's very simple. I rather fail with honesty rather than, succeed by fraud kind of things. Yeah. So this is my takeaway for today. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Chek Siu. And next, Kim, go ahead.
Thank you, Mazuki. I find that today's session had so much information to the extent that I feel quite overwhelmed because there's so much to take in. And I am just, really scratching the surface of what you shared. However, I am grateful that you've shared all the information so that I have something to work on in terms of the basic knowledge that I have from today's session. There's one thing which really struck me regarding authentic leadership. And you mentioned that being open to feedback and learning and creating this culture of being open to feedback and learning. And this is a concern I have because my take and my feeling is that this culture is not really very pervasive. Not many people are open to feedback and learning. And I think this is an important aspect for authentic leadership.
Yes.
And I wish to thank you so much for today's session. It was very enlightening. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comment. Spot on. I agree with you with that. Thank you. And last but not least, Pierre.
Mine is that you can take responsibility for where you are on your levels of authenticity. And then also the part we said about you are not separate person from behavior.
Yeah.
Just because I had a bad day doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
Thank you very much, Pierre. And Michael Tan, before he left, he put in the comment in the chat that values are the bottom line for authentic leaders. Absolutely, right. So just one announcement before we end, that the announcement is regarding the Meta Coach training system. To this Meta Coach training system leads to the certification as an associate certified Meta Coach. The first level is Coaching Essentials, and that program will be coming in March 11, 12, 18, and 19th of March. It's a 4-day program. Then module 2 is Coaching Genius, which will be on the 13th, 14th, 20th, and 21st May. These two programs, I will be the trainer for this program. So if you have not attended this program, however, I notice many of you have attended this program already. So this will be coming in March and May. So these are the prerequisite to Coaching Mastery. And for Coaching Mastery, we'll have Dr. Michael Hall coming all the way from Grand Junction, Colorado, to conduct the training here in Malaysia. And Coaching Mastery will be 9 days altogether from the 16th to the 24th of June. Why 9 days? Because the focus is on competency. So during the 9 days, you'll be practicing the 7 core skills. And as I mentioned, the practicing of the 7 core skills, I'm trying to scare Guat Ching as well. Don't worry, Guat Ching. Because the design of Coaching Mastery is that you will have the competency and confidence to coach by the end of the 9 days. It is not just about knowledge, It is about bringing the knowledge into skill. So that's coaching mastery for you, the meta coaching system. 3 levels: module 1, coaching essential; module 2, coaching genius; and module 3, coaching mastery. So with that, we've come to the end of the session. I really appreciate the time and energy that each of you have invested to be here, and I look forward to seeing all of you again in our next session. And for those, for Hazwani, my wife, Rosita, and Dr. Khairi, I'm sorry for the miscommunication that caused you to come in at the end of the session. And I hope that I have not scared you away from coming for the next session. So with that, thank you, everyone. Good night and God bless. Thank you. Yeah. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Salam.